All right. Thank you guys for joining us again for another episode of Flare Forward, wherever you may be. We're bringing up Lex from Scepter. Super excited to chat with him. I got the flare drops. I was checking out one of their articles and definitely want to get it out there of what they're planning to do and how they're going to make sure everyone understands what that transition looks like and what the future looks like for Scepter, guys. So take it away, Whale.
Hey, Lex, good to see you, man. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and you've been here from the beginning, and we really appreciate you. And yeah, so we have a big change where the flare drops are ending in a couple months. Like we have 3 flare drops left, the one that happens next week, and then the one in December, and then the one in January, and then it's over. And yeah, we want to hear what are your plans for S-Flare? What are you thinking? Yeah, so
Thanks, guys. Thanks for inviting me again. And yeah, I'm happy to talk about whatever I know here and give you as much insight into our plans at least as I can.
of course. Flare drops end in January 2026. What's next for S-Flare? What do you have in mind?
All right. Well, I think like there are several things here that we can touch on. One, flare drops ending. Flare drops are, of course, like an extraordinary case in regular network operations. Like most networks don't have something like a flare drop, so they don't have that high an APY as we've gotten used to on Flare. Most networks have like an APY around 5-6%, Ethereum lower. And if nothing changes besides the flare drops, we kind of estimate based on the rewards that we have every 30 days that about a third of the APY will still be around. So that's still basically twice as high as most networks. So while I think the flare drops ending will definitely be an event in Flare, it's not a shocking thing for a network on itself. I think we basically go in the direction of a more sustainable APY that creates less inflation.
For sure. And I think that, I mean, the real benefits of liquid staking is not only doing it for the return, but like the fact that you can stake and then do something else with your token, which is what I've been doing all these past years, which has been amazing.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we've said it often, but I think it can never be said enough. Of course, we take care of a lot of the work for you if you just want to stake, and that's great. And it's already one reason to do it, but the fact that you can put your S-Flare to work somewhere else and either create more yield or make use of the value, that's the whole point of liquid staking, right? So I think that will actually become a little bit easier in the future with these huge bumps in various types of that the various types of rewards create. It creates a little bit of well, it's predictable instability, so to speak, in the price, where often liquid staking gets rewards almost on a constant basis. So it's more gradual that it goes up. As you guys know, there are basically about 3 bigger jumps in a month, and then there's a little bit of like little movement in between at the moment. And so that amount of big jumps will go down. I also believe that's still the plan, that at some point staking rewards will also be paid out every epoch. That was at some point the plan. I'm not sure how far Flare is with that or if they still plan to do that, but that would smoothen out the curve even more, I think.
Yeah, I feel like I don't remember exactly, it was a long time ago, but I think in the initial stage, the minimum required for staking was 50,000 Flare, and then it was going to go down, I think.
Well, that hasn't gone down yet, so I don't know if they're going to do that. I'm not sure what the specific reason is for the minimum stake, to be honest. Another chain I know of with a P chain doesn't require that. But I'm sure there is some reason behind it, maybe some change in how the network works compared to similar change that help there. But of course, that we still have delegating for those that don't have up to 50,000 tokens.
Stake, or they can just stake it with you guys, and then you can stake as minimum as one flare.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter how much you want to stake with us. You can stake whatever. And of course, the advantage is also that the rewards are restaked as well. So you get the rewards at some point. But let's say that you have 50K, you put it into staking, and you set it to stake for 3 months or whatever. So you get your rewards, and there you have like a couple of hundred flare. What are you going to do with it? Because you can't stake it.
Correct. Yeah, for sure. And
so you'd have to wait until the unstake happens, and then you
be
can
able to compound that effect for sure.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, I in my head it doesn't really make sense, but a lot of people complain about the 10% that you take. Which one I'm like, okay, first, SFLR or Scepter needs to be a business, and they need to have some kind of revenue for the service they're providing. But do you have any stats of what the average user would get by doing self-staking and doing all the research and everything compared to you guys?
Well, maybe if you're extremely active in monitoring every single APY change, stake every 2 weeks and unstake every 2 weeks, maybe you could theoretically get something a little higher, but not much. But I think it's important to note, like 10% of rewards sounds like 10%, but actually it's not, right? It's if you consider your APY, let's say the APY as it is now is 41%. If we would take 10% of that, it's actually 4.1%.
Correct.
Of the APY.
Yeah, so it's 10% of the rewards, not of the total stake. And I feel like that's a big confusion that a lot of people have. I mean, we know that on X and Telegram and on the groups, there's a lot of opinionated people that they haven't done any research and they just say things. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm pretty happy with SFLR. The returns have been amazing, and it's something that I don't have to worry about. I mean, I feel like, yeah, like you said, that 10% of the rewards are so little that unless you're on top of things, like you're probably going to be better off just taking with SFLR than doing it yourself. And it's a lot of work. And then also your tokens are not doing anything. I mean, I have my SFLR on Kinetic, and then I borrowed against it, and then I'm doing several other things. And like that 10% that I'm paying you, I have more than made for it just by being active on the network.
Yeah, so there's that. I'm actually like on the side. I do some test staking and test delegating because, of course, I want to keep an eye on which one has the highest rewards and such. Unless you do this every 2 weeks, your APY won't get near the 41%. You're gonna have to really try to get there. And as said, like you can't do anything else, so you're kind of like having your token stuck all the time and doing all the work for it. It's a choice, and I mean, if you want to hold all the keys, be as DeFi as possible, then you probably don't want to go through a smart contract. But if that's not it, then I think this makes more sense. But that's my personal opinion.
For sure. So we have a few plans or a few products launching on Flare very soon. And what can you tell us about what's the products that are going to be integrating SFLR in the near future?
All right. So I think the first one to be integrating SFLR will be Spectra. So that's yield trading and some other things that I understand little about and you will find out if you watch the episode with Spectra that I have a lot of questions. So that's the first one. I think it's something that a lot of people have been looking forward to having. It's a new function on the network, so that's great. And then there is going to be an algorithmic stablecoin launched, which at launch won't use SFLR. but will in the future also allow SFLR to be used as a collateral. Those are the two that I know of that will do that. And of course, in another, like, there are some ideas for F assets 2.0 to also use SFLR, but that's not entirely up to us.
Interesting. And then I think in the chat I read something about you having some plans for doing some kind of bolts, like some strategies around SFLR and like some GL generating strategies.
Yeah, I have ideas for that, but I can't do it by myself. So I can't at the moment say too much about it, but it's not entirely off the table to do something like that.
Yeah. I guess once the SFLR ends, SFLR will stabilize, and like you said, there's going to be way more options to do things. No, like I don't know how people are going to take the end of flare drops in the short term. Like in the long term, I'm sure it's going to be totally fine, but I guess there's a little bit of hesitation of what's going to happen around that time.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand that. I think uncertainty is anyway something of these times, and adding on top a change like that might spook some people. On the other hand, of course, getting spooked in DeFi is usually not a good idea. So
For sure.
I don't know. I really don't know what's gonna happen. I know it will smoothen out the yield. It'll reduce inflation, and so while in the short term it might have some negative impact, there is also good reason to think that there could be positive results a little bit further up with those measures that reduce inflation.
For sure. So the next thing that I want to talk about is the difference, like the arbitrage that can happen between the exchange rate of SFLR in the decentralized exchanges and the fixed rate that you guys have. I recently, like a few weeks ago, there was a big DPEG and I shared on my group. And a few weeks later, a guy sent me a message. It's like, hey, this is some videos of my son's with his new GoPro that I bought because of that call that you gave me. So that was super nice to hear. And I think that, like you said, panicking is never a good idea. The people that don't panic usually find a lot of opportunities. Could you explain how that works, please, for people that are new?
Yeah, so DEX prices depend on market movement. That means that if someone is selling something, it becomes cheaper, and if someone is buying something, it becomes more expensive. Whereas the exchange rate in our pool simply depends on us adding rewards to the pool. So there is no fluctuation there in the same way. And what happens if a lot of people sell SFLR because they want to get rid of their flare or something quickly, then the price on the DEX goes down compared to flare. So if you then have flare and you could buy the SFLR, then the SFLR you have would be worth more flare than the flare you used to buy it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And I think that that's a very important thing to understand, because the smart contract exchange rate that you guys have, that is fixed. That cannot go down, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Like even if the price of SFLR on the market went to half, then arbitrage would bring it back to like a neutral at some point, because you would, like you said, you would be able to buy more SFLR with less flare, and then if you just go to Scepter and unstake it, then you get the exact exchange rate that you guys have. You just have to wait for 2 weeks.
Correct. So if you have a little patience, you can gain a lot of flare. And I know a lot of people have been doing that. Actually, it reminds me of a fun situation. I think not that long after we launched, someone approached me like, I think I discovered a flaw in your contract. And so I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. And then the person explained exactly this, like, yeah, but if I go to the DEX, I can buy more and then unstake, and then I have more. And I'm like, yes, that's called arbitrage. And of course, like when you're new to these things, first off, when you talk about arbitrage, people usually think about arbitrage between DEXs and DEXs SXs and stuff like that. But this is just as valid a type of arbitrage. Of course, it depends a little bit more on luck because you have to start your own staking cycle. It takes 2 weeks, and then after those 2 weeks, you either have to dare to hold on to your regular flare, or you have to decide, whether or not you let it restake automatically, which then loses you nothing, or you buy whatever is on the market.
I mean, when the arbitrage is good, like a few weeks ago, that was 6% in one trade. I think at some point it was like 6% in one trade. That's almost the yearly staking yield that you get in 2 weeks. Like, I can be patient enough for that.
Yeah. And in the beginning, it was worse. In the beginning, when we've been live like for a month or two, because I think a lot of people did not yet get how it exactly worked. So a lot of people were selling their SFLR. So every 2 weeks, you could basically get 2 to 4% more flare by just unstaking and buying.
For sure. I was there paying attention, and I think one thing to note is what Lex said. One, don't panic in DeFi. Like, panic decisions in DeFi are usually bad ones. If you need to do something, do it from a rational, calculated move. And 2, DeFi pays to the people that are paying attention. I mean, I was the one buying that SFLR, that cheap SFLR at the beginning that you were talking about.
Yeah. Well, in that case, that was great, right?
Oh my God, yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, for sure.
People even started saying like, "Hey, Alex, will you stop saying stuff about arbitrage? This is way too juicy a business." So of course I didn't, but I get it. Like it was good for those that understood the concept.
Well, cleaned house on it. Don't. He cleaned house. Like, he showed me what he was doing in the arbitrage. He was moving the charts on his own for a little bit.
Yeah. I believe you.
Very nice, Lex. Do you have any other questions, Steve? You said that you had some secondary questions.
So one of them was I noticed you guys did some upgrades to the website. You want to cover some of that stuff you guys kind of did?
Do you mean the lander?
Yes.
Well, the lander and also the DeFi activity, like that was a pretty cool
history and all that stuff. Like, you guys had some really, really nice stuff. So I kind of wanted to, kind of hear a little bit about what you guys, kind of had going on there and what anything else you guys had in development too. But yeah, there's some really, really nice stuff, like I said, on the site. So yeah, I definitely want to hear about those updates and any future updates.
All right. So the Scepter.fi, the lander, basically, we updated because our, I guess, fork on Partisia is officially live. We haven't given it a lot of noise yet because we are waiting for the network to work like together with us to make that noise, obviously. And it's not an EVM, so going there requires a little bit of research, but we needed to update our lander, obviously, to reflect that and to allow people to get there. We also added a little bit of, I think, like 2 items to a Y stake on Scepter. It didn't, the 4 we had didn't cover everything, and I think some of them might actually be more also of interest to bigger stakers. I think it's a nice thing that we currently have, I think, mostly smaller stakers, meaning, not the gigantic whales with 100 million tokens or more, but the smaller ones. You can also see that by looking at the amount of stakers and the amount of stakes, obviously. But that does mean that, there's probably still a good growth opportunity in the institutional side. Then if I go to the app itself, then of course, as you said, like the newest feature is the history, which basically shows you all your SFLR related activity. And it can sometimes be pretty putting your nose into something like where you gave unlimited allowances and such. But all in all, I think it's a nice addition, so you can keep a bit more track of your SFLR related activity, and it also allows you to export it, which might be useful for some people who need to do something with their taxes. I'm not sure.
I feel sorry for those people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have taxes as well here where I live, but and they would want it much more complicated, I guess. But it has to be pragmatic as well.
Are there any future developments kind of going on the site?
Yeah, actually, I was shown an update that I think will arrive at some point on the S Rewards tab, where we will add some additional information to the SFLR exchange rate chart that could actually help you find arbitrage opportunities.
Snap. Nice.
Yeah. And I have my dev trying to figure out how to add some more or get the data for some of the items on your SFLR that have been sorely missing, like the Spark DEX and Enosys DEX pools.
How's that going, Wales?
I mean, I think we all want to see that. I hope it will work in that way, that it will show the actuals. So that will be fun because, of course, they change every day. But I think that would actually be healthy for people to see how DEX pools works and such. So, that is always a tricky one. But those are some of the things that at least will come. And I have ideas of simplifying it a little bit because, of course, now we have like 6 tabs, which is quite a lot. I've not been able to break it with my phone, but I have the feeling that maybe some old phone somewhere does not like the fact that we have 6 tabs in a row.
And then I guess the 4.4% tax for staking out of turn is going to be removed as well once the FlareDrops ends, right?
Yeah, so the buy-in fee that is currently active, and that is active in that 23-day period when Flare makes the snapshots. For the flare drop, that will, of course, disappear from the 30th of January. Basically, when we turn it off, then for the period without, we just don't turn it back on. And so that will also simplify things, I think, a lot for integration. Because at the moment, when you, of course, integrate SFLR staking, somehow you need to take those things into account, like Luminite did very nicely. They even have a cool countdown and stuff like that.
Nice. So I was in the app, and maybe the blog, it could be mixing the two up, but I saw something about maybe doing an APY update where you guys did it from the beginning of the year and remove flare drops so that people could understand, and there would be a good track record of what that APY looks like. Have you guys completed that, or getting close to kind of give it a nice, runway of what, if there was no flare drops, what people would have gotten the last 12 months, so they can have a really realistic
in that way? Yeah, because we did update the APY calculation not that long ago, and you might have noticed a change APY that was based on that calculation change. So we used to calculate the APY based on the difference between the last 2 flare drops. And of course, everything that fell in between. Now, this could give a bit of a false impression sometimes when you have, for instance, suddenly 3 staking rewards within that period or something. It would be offset a little bit. So now it's set to an APY that actually looks back between the last flare drop and 12 flare drops ago, I think. So it looks almost like almost over the period of a year. And basically it shows the yield that it has generated over the last year. So it's of course not it's not really a prediction. Yeah, it's an actual yield number. So if you had 100 flare staked a year ago, then you have 141 flare at the moment. That is as simple as it is. And then once the flare drop stops, of course, we need to adjust the calculation because there won't be any flare drops, so that whole calculation won't work. So we have to basically take out the flare drop part. I'm going to ask our math wizards to create something to just filter it out so that we can still use, maybe we can still use 12 months of data, but without the flare drop. Based on the rewards, and you can just see that in the as reward tab, I would say about a third of the APY still stays. So I expect it to be 13.5, but I'm always conservative, so I'm saying 12.
Right, it better be safe than sorry.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I prefer, to say it in such a way that it's that everybody's happy at the end, and not that you can say like, hey, what the hell?
Yeah, under promise, over deliver for sure.
Yeah, that's always been the goal. So that's what it looks like at the moment.
Okay. So what about so you kind of mentioned a little bit earlier about delegating rewards, and I know with like the whole reward rate there is a tipping point at some point where staking becomes less valuable than delegating if the quantity tips for one direction or the other.
Mhm.
How's that looking per se from your perspective? Obviously, you watch it way more than the average Joe. I bet very few even understand that staking could actually drop below delegating.
Yeah.
If for some reason that happened. But yeah, I'm curious to see how that path is going. Are they getting closer? Are they not getting close?
Yeah. So currently, the last time I checked, and I check every month, I noticed a difference of about 15%. So staking is about 15% more rewarding than delegating, and that is without any doing any compounding tricks, because that would make it more complicated, I guess. So at the moment, that's definitely not the case. There are quite a few things that can affect that, of course, like the simplest one, where Flare does nothing, but everybody suddenly starts staking. Since if the amount of tokens staked increases significantly, then of course the APY will drop comparatively, and it could be that in that case the delegating is more profitable. Of course, players also sometimes changed the reward ratios, but we all know that probably will only happen after a improvement proposal. So no one would be too shocked when that happens. And then, a third one would be that a lot of people stop delegating for some reason.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, so, a lot of people are kind of, we're getting a lot of new people to the ecosystem, and, few people understand the value, obviously, of watching your who you're delegating to. I believe I read the other day, like Bifrost, because of, the number of times they've missed, they're actually not eligible to pay out rewards to their delegators. And so, like, how does that affect the staking protocol team? Is that different? And what does that look like? And how do you guys hedge that?
Yeah. So, we, of course, do check the list of validators on a regular basis to see if there is any strange thing happening there, that something suddenly gets a 0% APY. We have certain things we check on, and I'm happy to say that includes the 3 passes that a validator gets. So every validator, when they are behaving well and they haven't done anything wrong for a long time, they have 3 passes. And then when they underperform for some reason, they lose a pass. When they underperform again, they lose another pass. When they underperform again and they lose their last pass, then they don't get a reward. So I guess that's what you were talking about. And we stop staking to a node when they lose 1 pass. We do restart again once they have the 3rd one back. But the point is, you can lose 1 pass, I think, every epoch. So you run out of passes quite quickly if your machine shuts down and you can't get it back up. And of course, we don't want to have a significant amount staked on a validator that doesn't perform, and then doesn't perform basically for the people who stake with us.
And that comes back to what you were saying about, unless you are very active and monitoring all of this, then you would most likely underperform compared to SFLR.
Yeah, that's the second risk, of course, of staking yourself. You can stake to 2 or 3 validators maximum. Of course, you need 50K for every validator minimum. So if you have 50K, you can only stake to 1 validator. And if that validator doesn't perform, you have nothing. You have it stuck there. You don't get rewards. Too bad. If you are staked through Scepter, then it's staked to 60 different validators. So you get the average. And if 1 or 2 don't somehow get rewards, the impact is way less than it would be if you did that yourself.
So what's the average y'all stake forward? Because I know, you can stake for different periods, but if you're so close to watching those, they lose it fast, we remove. Y'all stake for much shorter periods each time?
Yeah, we stake for 2 weeks at a time.
That's y'all's max, 2 weeks. That's it.
Yeah, that's the minimum, and that's what we stake for. This is also related to the unstake period in the app, right? So if you want to get your tokens back, you need to wait for 14.5 days. 0.5 is simply a precautionary measure. If something takes a bit longer, but basically it's the 2 weeks.
Nice. So going to pivot just a little bit on that. And are you guys looking to do anything with Firelight, or you kind of mentioned earlier maybe the stable coins, Enosys CDPs?
Mm-hmm.
So are you guys looking to be involved in either of those? Yeah,
so as I think I mentioned it, but we are definitely talking with Enosys about the integration of SFLR there.
Well, you'd mentioned doing something, but wasn't Enosys, so I wasn't sure if that was Enosys.
Yeah, it's Enosys.
Gotcha.
It's Enosys. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I think Darren said that at the beginning they won't use SFLR, but soon after they will. And I'm like we said before, we're all waiting for the end of SFLR for things to stabilize and then use that as collateral.
Yeah, I think this is one of the reasons, the flare drops. So if the flare drops are not constantly, changing the price significantly, of course, for one flare, SFLR, it doesn't matter that much, but for a ton, it is a big difference. Then I think it might be more dependable for them to use after the flare drops.
I mean, for me on Kinetic, SFLR has been great because I'm making more on my collateral that I'm paying on my debt. So that's been great.
Yeah. And of course, the advantage has been, I think, also that it's sort of like a little buffer. So when prices go down, your SFLR goes down a little bit slower than the rest. So, that of course has an effect on not getting liquidated as fast. But yeah.
Nice. And what about Firelight? Got anything kind of going on there? If you can't give away anything, that's fine too. Don't.
Yeah. Well, I can't say much there. I would like to talk to them, but they're kind of busy at the moment, I think. So I'm just gonna let them release first, and then I'll try it again. Just if we can figure out something together.
That's funny, like you say that, because I joked with Hugo the other day where I saw he put a post up on X as soon as he finished that interview with them. Oh, Firelight releases this month, and I said, "Whoa, cowboy!" Like a little gift for fun. And then I saw, I don't know, about a week ago, a little less. It was like, "Oh, Firelight launches December 3rd." And I said, "Man, making those dates are tough. I hope those 3 extra days make a difference."
Yeah. Well, let's hope so.
Hard. But I see it. They're probably right. I'm glad. And that's Whale, do you got anything you want, man?
Checking the Explorer, and seems like there's some activity on Spectra. So hopefully we'll get some news there.
Yeah, we've been actively communicating with them about the integration of SFLR. So let's hope they figure out how to integrate it. Because of the bumps, it's not the easiest one to integrate. So,
But I mean, Once the flare drops end, seems like SFLR is the perfect product for fixed yield because you can like lock your tokens and you know what's the returning after a year. No, like I feel like that's the perfect product for fixed yield.
It will be quite predictable, not fully predictable, of course, because I said, like, there are several reasons why yield can drop on the P chain or on the C chain, or in general, and that might be harder to predict. But based on current knowledge, it should be fairly easy.
I mean, yeah, I've been studying the fixed yield, and it's a super complex product. But I guess that's what the whole idea is, that you look at that the current rate, and then if the rate is lowering for whatever reason, then you can trade the fixed yield, like the yield token, right?
Yeah. So I think they have a fixed yield, which basically just guarantees something. And then there is the one where you can trade the yield token, or you can trade the excess, or I think the excess yield. I think maybe watch that video and get the details, because I'm already having hard trouble remembering it.
Yeah, no, it's very complex. But yeah, what I understand is that you have the principal token that guarantees at expiration the same amount that you have there. And then you have the yield token. And that's kind of the idea, that if at some point you expect the yield token to go down, then if you have like a fixed yield, then that can trade for much higher because you're expecting the yield to go lower. And then the same thing can happen if you have like a low yield and you're expecting the yield to go higher, then you can trade that as well. But yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of products that are coming are becoming way more sophisticated and complex. And yeah, I'm looking forward to all of these things, mostly because they get me out of my comfort zone and they make me like upgrade my game, and that's always a good thing to know.
Yeah, I'm also looking forward at least to trying it and seeing what it does in real life.
I'm looking forward to trying to figure out how to track the value. Like that's like everybody loves to tell us the value. That's where we come in. We try to go, how do we actually track it to verify it? Trust but verify, and that's always the funniest part too. That's been a thing.
That's true. Yeah. Well, I'm sure it's somewhere on chain, but we'll have to figure it out.
Oh, Will's working on that.
All right, Lex, thank you so much for this interview. We appreciate you, and I will edit the video and post it this week. And yeah, looking forward to the future of SFLR. I mean, I'm super happy with the product. It's been great for me, and I'm sure it will be in the future as well.
Thank you guys for letting me join again, for giving me the honor of a second interview. And I'm looking forward to meeting up with you again in the future.
Definitely. We'll have you back on for sure. I have no doubt.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. I will see you guys next time.
Cheers.